Welcome to another exceptional episode of Journey with Michael. My name's Michael.
And my name is Ryan.
If you've just joined us on our journey here with this podcast, we highly recommend going back to the start, walking yourself through the journey of the podcast.
Definitely.
And today we've got a very exciting topic, something that's very close and dear to both our hearts.
Definitely.
We are talking about
the beauty that is plant medicine.
Oh yeah, the medicina, the plant medicines, the psychedelics, and just our experiences through them, the healing that we've encountered through them for both of us, and just how they play a part in our daily lives.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose if you have listened to or been on the journey and listened to every single episode up to this point, you would have known how transformative it can already be when we've spoken about, me personally, my journey with ayahuasca and the recent sit that I've had. But today we're just going to go a little deeper into all the different plant medicines that there are.
It's an umbrella of a subject.
For sure.
Because you could look at plant medicines as being vitamins, supplements, teas. Definitely. You know, there's a lot of context under that umbrella that many people use plant medicines in their life.
For sure. Well, as a naturopath, we dispense plant medicines, medicinal herbs. That's something that I offer to every single one of my clients.
Well, exactly. Because, you look at the pharmaceutical medicines, they're all derived from the natural plant medicine makeup and compounds that are found in nature anyways.
Yeah, for sure. They sort of take their best guess at a specific chemical that creates a certain reaction in the body based on just thousands of years of using these plants. Understanding the mechanisms and I suppose taking the symbiotic nature that is a plant and trying to manufacture or take away the synthetic compound that we think is the active property in it.
Yeah, and also with the depth of the plant medicine journey, it's the altered state of consciousness. It's the ability for it to be able to show us what we're not able to see or unwilling to see. Just the profound changes it can have in people's lives. And we both speak from experience. I had anxiety, the what would you say, given to me by a doctor once. And that was an identity I held onto for a long time. And it was through my journey of plant medicines, namely ayahuasca. And obviously we've got other ones that really helped us along. But it cured it, and I know it's a bold statement and people will be sitting there going, how do you cure it? It's but that's the messaging that's been given to us by Big Pharma and all of that is, take this pill and stay on it for the rest of your life.
Sure.
Keep yourself numb.
That's it. Definitely. And it, they have their place, but at the same time they can be detrimental because they actually take away the power that we have to actually move through these situations or these dysfunctions that we are living with. Especially when it comes to mental health. It's never just coming from one place. It is extremely multifaceted from, neurotransmitters that aren't being produced properly to neural inflammation to digestive system issues or a gut microbiome that isn't functioning properly. So it's like when you're looking at it from this reductionist way of looking at things and just saying like, okay, this one SSRI is going to help you move through something or overcome something, then it is looking at sort of reducing our ability to actually heal because we're just hoping we take one thing and that's going to fix all the other problems that are in our life.
Yeah, and it's not taking anyone to the root cause.
No, not at all.
You're not looking at why that thing is happening. It's just putting the Band-Aid over the symptoms and easing the symptoms.
Easing the symptoms.
And also as a side note, Ryan and I are not doctors, we are not medical professionals, we are not advising anybody to go and experience anything we're going to talk about today. This is a personal choice and personal journey that we've both been on, and it is in no way are we advising anybody to go down that path.
No, definitely not. At the same time, it's all about piquing curiosity. So if there is curiosity for the subject and the thing, do your own research. Allow yourself to explore it. Allow the medicine to find you. And that's probably one of the biggest things when you're on this journey. If you're constantly trying to chase it, looking for it to fix you, then even energetically, the medicine isn't truly going to maybe give you what you want. The medicine will give you what you need. It doesn't always give you what you want.
I think that's a good metaphor for life as well, right?
For sure.
You're always going to get what you need, not what you want.
Definitely. And so that really is what it's all about. And I guess even when you're talking about this subject, it's like it is such a journey in itself, because for most people, and talking about myself personally, and I know this is a very similar story to you, Mike, it's about actually reconditioning our relationship that we've actually had with these substances in the past. Because a lot of times when we're introduced to plant medicines, we're introduced to them in the forms of drugs. We take them at raves or parties to try to enhance a state, try to move through, or just have fun or numb ourselves from something so that we feel a little bit better in the moment.
Yep.
Yeah. But if we're looking at these plant medicines with respect, and we're using them in a space of reverence, then the energy of the plant's going to come through as well. You're going to be able to drop in deeper into some of those past experiences, instead of just having them at a rave with a large group of people with the settings not quite right, and it can actually re-traumatize you. It can take you out of that situation and take you to a place that maybe isn't right for the situation you're in, and then it can become something you have to work through.
And you've got personal experience in that as well, which I'm sure we'll touch on after, but you touched on something very important there. It's the set and the setting. The intention of the use of the medicine, and you listening out there, you'll hear us use the word medicine or sacrament quite a lot, because again, like what you said, Ryan, is transitioning that program, that use from drugs, to knowingly or unknowingly using as an escapism for not feeling what's within you. I know personally, so I had a huge party life, I guess, from I can remember, and drugs were a huge part of that for a long time. And going through all that in my early to mid-20s, it was basically one big whole weekend. And so in the person that I am today, the regeneration of my my own standpoint on the use of these medicines or supplements, sacraments, whatever you want to say. I've had to create new relationships with them, and that has been through more sovereignty, through set and setting, through deeper reverence, and ultimately using the medicine and the set as a healing process rather than as an escapism process. So I look back to those times in my 20s, and look, I was having a ball. I would never have changed it for anything in the world. However, it was an escapism. It was, I was a drug addict. I was an alcoholic, but I just used the term partying to minimize it a lot more. And looking back now, it's like, wow, no, I really was. And lots of powder, lots of drinking, lots of taking everything and anything, and just being up for days. And so the start of my relationship with these plants was, and consequently every other medicine that I use as well outside of this, I've had to go into it to reframe my relationship with it and see whether it sits with me or not, and then whether or not I continue the use of it or the cultivation of it.
Yeah, definitely. And mine very similar, probably not on the same scale as you, but the same situations, same stories, and that's probably for a lot of people, right? That's the way in which they are introduced to it. Whereas the true context of it is like an initiation, you know, the different ceremonies that you can have around it, or even using it as an opportunity to like step into manhood, or like an initiation process, isn't something that we really have in the Western culture. But when you take a step back and look at the way in which plant medicine has integrated itself into the human experience, you know, when you look at ayahuasca or San Pedro or even magic mushrooms, they're all used in a place of reverence. They're all used in a way to enhance the psychosomatics of a person, to enhance their spiritual connection to self, not just to go party and have a good time. You know? And
the relationship that I have with them now is, I mean, I don't drink anymore, haven't done for a while now. And if I am at a party or an event and I do take some psilocybin or some cactus, San Pedro and things like that, even in that setting, the intention is still, what can I learn from this medicine?
Sure.
How can you help me connect more with the others around me? And how can you help me pull that thread of pleasure and fun as well?
Yeah, because sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is just bust some moves on the fucking dance floor and have a great time.
Oh, yeah.
Allow yourself to drop into play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I know we've spoken about this a lot of times, but it does come down to intention. What's the intentional use of anything? Why are you doing something?
Yeah.
The check in with yourself. Am I coming home and smoking weed because I've had a bad day and I want to numb it out? Am I coming home to have a glass of wine or a beer because that's a habit I've ingrained into myself to get me those chemical hits of serotonin, dopamine? And if you're finding that that's what the use is for, it's the radical honesty to yourself to go, oh, I need to pull myself up here.
For sure. Acknowledgement of what's truly going on, and acknowledging exactly where you're at so that you can make the choices to change it. You know, nothing will ever change if you don't bring the awareness to it.
And the thing with these medicines as well, you're absolutely right there, 100%. And the thing with these medicines is they cure alcoholism. They cure eating disorder. You know, because they take you into the root causes and show you the pain and the wounding that you are externally soothing with other chemicals.
And that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is now that the science is catching up to spirituality. You know, we're always so far behind in the West, and we always need to prove everything so well. But that has its place, so that it can actually get out into the mainstream. It's like you look at the psilocybin trials, the MDMA trials, the ketamine trials, the use of iboga for addiction. It's like all of these are helping people move through traumas that cognitive behavioral therapy and years of all these other modalities that work for some people but don't work for others, within a few sessions, really changing people's lives. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like the wisdom that we've always known is now getting proven, so that the use of these substances or these medicines can actually be pushed out into the rest of the world. You know, they're here for us to use, right? And it's really, really funny because you always talk about, or like, privilege, right? Like we're privileged. We come from a place of privilege. We were born into a Western civilization where we have the choice to be able to choose these medicines and have these things. And a lot of people are like, well, no, you shouldn't do them because they're meant for the culture and the people where they're grown. But if you talk to anyone in the from those places, it's like, no, the medicine is here to now get out into the world. You know, our maestro says exactly the same thing. He's like, no, I'm here to do the work, because the Western civilization, we need the fucking work more than anyone. You know, we're the ones who are living in these highly stressed out worlds. We're being manipulated by the government, being manipulated by television and the news and social media, and there's all the stresses. It's like, we are the ones that actually need the fucking work more than anyone else, you know?
And they're going through thousands of years of lineage to understand, and they talk to the plants. I mean, we can't comprehend and understand that because we have amnesiaed ourselves to the connection of nature, to the connection of the divine.
For sure.
And so that's why there's a psychedelic revolution now.
Oh, yes.
The psychedelic revolution is in full swing. And this is why you and I can sit here and proudly and confidently talk about our experiences, knowing that it will trigger some people, and some people will label us as whatever based off their own mapping, and that's okay too. But then there'll be some people that will hear this and go, that's something that I needed to hear. And it will call to them, and then it will find them. And that's the whole purpose of this conversation, I feel, is we're not here bragging about our experiences and this and that. And it's, no, we've gone through this. We've spoken to the plants. We've go through our experiences, and we've transversed this reality just from plants, just from chemicals that help us, show us who we can be, show us who we've forgotten to be, and help us heal. It comes down to the healing.
Definitely.
And I'm all for it. I'm all for singing it from the fucking rooftops.
Definitely. It's a story that needs to be told.
It really does. So let's take us on a little journey of yourself, Raigai, about your plant medicine. You know, how did it find you? How did you find it? Where did you start, and what's the journey been like for you?
So as we were speaking about before, like I've always had a relationship with plant medicines as them as being drugs. And I probably didn't have any plant medicines for maybe about 5 years. When I was 23, I had a really confronting experience at a festival. I'm unsure if we've spoken about it before. A really confronting experience at a festival where I'd taken acid, added some MDMA to it. I was drinking. I was in this festival with over 25,000 people, and essentially I got driven into psychosis. I remember being in the bathroom, going to the toilet, walking out of a portaloo, and just walking into like the fiery gates of hell. And there was just people running around. There was this was actually an experience that did actually happen at the festival. There was fucking portaloos started to get burnt down, fences started to get pushed over, people were stealing like the quad bikes from the security guards, and it was just like walking into complete anarchy.
Into Sodom,
100%. And that's it. I walked out, and it was hell. It was chaos everywhere. And I sort of lost myself in that and got consumed by it. And it took me into some really dark places within myself, whereas all I could hear for about 5 days was just people saying my name, people talking about me, and I was just walking around this festival like a zombie for 5 days. And ultimately, this is the thing that triggered me becoming depressed. It triggered me like being on the brink of psychosis, because it took me about 6 months to actually feel comfortable to be out of the house after that experience. Wow. You know, but the gift that actually did come from that is I started to learn more about spirituality. I started to learn more about breath work, meditation. I started to stop drinking. It pushed me into taking up boxing and really going after that for a few years. And that experience for me was so traumatizing that it actually took me away from using any plant medicines or anything for a really, really long time, which was beautiful, because when I actually came back to using them maybe only about 3 years ago, every single time it was coming from a place of reverence at the start, like really just using it, or like sitting with psilocybin, sitting with cactus, sitting with the grandmother, and giving myself an opportunity to actually heal from that experience. Yeah. And this is why set and setting is so important, you know, because you can get pulled into, you know, if you're that way inclined, pulled into these darker realms. And what it actually did, it was like, I mean, I was already super sensitive. I was extremely like spiritual. It just hadn't really started yet. But that was like the thing that just really ripped me open, you know? And for years, I've seen it as probably one of the worst experiences of my life. But looking back on it now, it's like without that experience, I probably wouldn't be here. You know, I wouldn't have the same relationship. I wouldn't be who I am. And that was just one of those moments that really opened me up to seeing that there's more to the world than what's just going on in the physical plane.
It's beautiful, because you could have been absolutely victimized by that for your entire life and ran away from it and avoided it and left it in the dark.
For sure.
But you utilized it to be able to alchemize that pain, alchemize that experience, ultimately share in a group setting of when we're going through our rebirth course, and go into it. And once it was released, and then it allowed you to move further into your journey. It's like I mean, that's what would you say, an instant dark night of the soul kind of awakening. You hear stories about people who have done it in car accidents because they've been on a 3-day bender and they've just woken up and they're like, how am I alive? And it changes the course of their life forever. And it sounds like that's what that was for you.
Definitely. And so it was a journey. And even now it's still a journey. Like those moments still remind me to just be in reverence of it, you know, to understand the ability or the power that it truly does have. But as that journey has shifted and changes and molded, as I've moved through a lot of these traumatic experiences using breathwork and ayahuasca, it's like a befriending of them now. Yep. It's like, no. I'm still going to sit with you in reverence, but I'm still going to allow you to allow me to have a deeper level of fun and play and things like that when we are at different festivals.
Yep. So for me, how plant medicines found me. So I'm going to take my story back to what I touched on earlier in my 20s, and cocaine was a huge thing, speed was a huge thing, alcohol was a huge thing, and every now and then ketamine was a huge thing as well. Pretty much anything except the intravenous and opioids, you know. And every now and then someone would have, you know, a bag of mushrooms or something like that, and you'd take them and you'd have a laugh, or someone would have an acid trip and you'd take an acid trip. You know, we'd sometimes go back to my place after being out on a Friday and Saturday night, back to back, and we'd all drop an acid trip and all laugh and do that for hours on end. But there was no deeper spiritual experience in any of it. There wasn't. There was just the causal effect of what the chemicals were doing to my body and the changes in the body. So my very first, you know, air quote, which is what I'm doing with my fingers if you're listening, drug that I ever took was acid. I remember, and Dad, if you're listening, hello. I remember when I was probably about 14, maybe 15, you know, doing the old sneak out of the house, and got picked up by my mate and his older brother who had a car, and they put this little square tab and they said, hey, put this under your tongue. And I said, what is it? They said, it's acid. And I said, what will it do? And they said, oh, like it'll just make you have some fun and laugh and do all of that. There was no anything. I thought, oh, that sounds like fun. So we took that and we drove to a park, and it was starting to kick in then. And then, you know, there were these huge skate vert ramps that we were on top of, sliding down and doing all the fun things there. So that was actually the very first substance that I ever took was an acid trip. And then from there, about that age, it was just weed, and totally in an unconscious way, just lots of it at that age. Totally don't recommend it by any stretch of the means at that age. Just allow your brain to develop. And so it has always been within my life from that age. But where plant medicine's really got a strong hold in my life in a healing and spiritual way was my very first ayahuasca ceremony, and that would have been probably 4 years ago at least now. So I just gotten into breath work, and I was doing some rebirthing with a coach, Sandro, and doing some work with him. And I'd started going to the deeper realms with the breath. And one weekend, I mean, living here in Auckland, if you know New Zealand, there's an island called Waiheke Island, which is about 40 minutes away by the ferry. And I was in real estate at this time, and I just thought, I just need to recharge the batteries. I want to go away. I've never been to Waiheke, and, you know, why not? And so I booked an Airbnb, had this beautiful Airbnb that had this lovely view of the beach. And I was just going to go there and do a bit of breath work in the morning, have a cold swim in the morning, and just generally recharge. And in this time, probably within the 3 months of that, I had just started getting some noticing information about ayahuasca, and I thought, what is that? So I started looking and found it's from South America, Peru, started going a bit deeper, and thought, and it just, you know, when you really feel something of a new thing that's entered your life, you feel it, and you think, oh, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole, I'm going to chase it. Not chase it, but I'm going to go down that rabbit hole, I'm going to feel into it. So I'd already been doing that for a few months and going, okay, my next trip will be South America, and I'll find this ayahuasca thing and whatever in the context that it is. Now, fast forward 3 months back to when I went to Waiheke. So got off the ferry, and I got my key to the Airbnb, and I asked the lady, she was actually at the ferry terminal, and I asked her, I said, oh, hey, how do I get to the house? She goes, oh, well, look, you can catch the bus, and it kind of takes you all around. It's about half an hour, or just catch a taxi. It's only 10 minutes away. I said, oh, I'll just catch a taxi. So I went up the front, waited for the taxi, and this taxi rolled up, and I jumped in, and there was a few other people as well with a different party, but they were going on the winery tour, you know, so they were all party mode and half drunk as well. And so the taxi driver just goes, oh, look, can I grab both of you, and I'll drop them off to the winery, and I'll drop you off to your Airbnb because they're on the way. I said, absolutely, no worries. So I sat in the front, they jumped in the back, and yeah, within about 10 minutes, we dropped them off to the winery, and then me and the taxi driver got started talking, and he's going, yeah, why are you here? What are you doing? And I just said, look, I'm here to recharge the batteries. I'm going to do some breath work in the morning, and I'm going to, you know, do this and that. And for whatever reason, the subject of ayahuasca came up. It's just one of those, I don't know how it happened times, but it did. And I just started talking about, how I want to go to South America, and I'm going to go on this journey myself, and I'm going to go and find it. And he goes, well, you don't actually have to journey to South America to do that. I said, oh, what do you mean? He said, oh, well, there's actually ceremonies available in around here. I said, wow, okay. When? He said, tonight. I said, okay, well, can I come? And he said, no. I thought, well, okay, no worries.
Fair enough.
I had no prep, no nothing. And so as he was driving me to my Airbnb, he actually got the address wrong. We went to the wrong place. And he goes, oh, it's actually 10 minutes that way. So within that 10 minutes, I was telling him about rebirthing and how I'd gone to these, the weekend before I was on a retreat, and I started my healing journey and doing the deeper work. And ultimately he said, okay, no worries. We'll bring you along. And so I got brought along to that one, and it was one of the most riveting experiences of my entire life.
Riveting.
And it was absolutely profound in every way. I had absolutely no expectations. I was introduced to a beautiful plant medicine that day called rape as well. And it was such a reverence that it found me. It literally found me. And from that day onwards, I've been in a deep journey with the mother ayahuasca. I've probably sat, 30, 40 times, I would say, in that. Not that I'm trying to brag about a number, but that's the depth that I've been taking this healing journey with the mother. And such a shift, such a change in my whole being. I remember returning home the next day, and I was actually living at my sister's place. And I'd received a necklace from the server who was serving it that night as a gift, and I had that. And I walked in the door, and my sister just goes, "Whoa, you're different." without even saying anything. I was just smiling, beaming. And so it's such a beautiful story of, I was just going into my own work. I'd started to receive the messages of this medicine, and then it literally found me. And from then on, it's just been such a beautiful, beautiful experience.
That's it. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it, right? She will find you. You know, she has an ability to drop into your life when you're ready, you know, when you're open to the experiences, and when you have the capability to actually move through the experiences that are going to happen on it, right? Because they're deeply transformational, and she's such a powerful teacher that if we kind of hunt it out and search for it and make things happen and force things, then that's probably what the experience is going to be like. You know, she's going to force you. She's like, respect me, don't try to chase me, you know, wait for me to come to you.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful. Very similar with my first time with Aya. There was in South America. Me and Van were traveling over there in the first year that we were together, and we spent a few months with her mum, and then we were traveling through Bolivia, and we were traveling through Peru, and we weren't even really thinking about like ayahuasca and going on a journey and an experience. And it just sort of dropped into our lap. We traveled into a place called Pisac, which is in the Sacred Valley in Peru. And we were just talking about breathwork, me and her just talking about breathwork at a little cafe. And then a guy comes up and he starts talking about breathwork because he's a breathwork practitioner. And he was like, oh, if you come around to my house tomorrow, I'll guide you through a journey. And then he was, and then another lady came over and she was like, oh, I mean, if you guys are into breathwork, like maybe ayahuasca is something that you'd be interested in as well. And we sort of were like, yeah, sure. I mean, if it works out, it works out. If it happens, it happens. And then we didn't really like grab any information or anything from her. And the next day we were just walking through Pisac and we ran into her again. And she was like, oh, I'm just about to jump into my taxi and go home. It's right at the top of the Sacred Valley. Do you guys want to come with me? And we're like, yeah, sure, we'll come with you. And as we were going through the journey, she was like, oh, actually, the people that I live with are servers. And if you guys want, you can meet them and check it out, see if it works, see if it's something you guys want to do and you feel into. And it just sort of happened. It just sort of dropped in our lap, and we just trusted that guidance. And it was a beautiful experience. Beautiful experience. I still remember that first moment when I had the ayahuasca. I was literally sitting there, and it felt like I was on The Lion King. When I was like, I was Simba and Mufasa was the mother up in the clouds, and I was like, I could feel myself walking through the grass and my fingers just like rippling through the grass, and I like looked up, and the grandmother was just like, you're not ready, and it instantly stopped, and there was no like anger or frustration. I was just like, wow, that's a bit shit. And then I just sat with it for probably about 3 hours, and just nothing happening. And then she was like, would you not like another cup? And I was like, yeah, I think I'll have another cup. And it was like, as soon as it touched my lips, boom, I was just into process. And every traumatic experience in my life just flicked through like a book. It was just like, and as that was happening, my head was just expanding. And as the book closed, it's like this balloon just popped in my head. And then there was just like relief, quiet. It's beautiful. Love it.
She takes you to some. Well, you can't even minimize the subjective experiences through words, because all it does is minimize it.
Definitely.
There are no words to describe the feelings and the places that you go to. I mean, we can say, oh yeah, look, we go into the other realm through the door. There's a kaleidoscope of color. We're seeing through different methodologies through our eyes. My very first one of the major profound ones, I got taken back to a Viking village, and it was just absolutely real. Like I was there, I was smelling it, I was feeling it, and I came back, and in the sharing circle after, I literally said, I am a Viking warrior. It was just, I didn't even know where those words came from. And so she can take you back to ancestral, she can take you through whatever's there, or she can just go, you are expecting too much tonight. You are getting a very light ceremony, and there's lessons in everything. There's lessons in that. Oh yeah, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to go through, and she might go, your lesson now is expectations.
For sure.
And you are now going to sit there. It doesn't matter what you're going through. This is your lesson.
Just sit with it.
And I mean, I suppose let's touch on the purging aspect as well, because I mean, that's all people really who have never really experienced it or just hear it through the grapevine. Hear, oh, is that the thing that makes you puke and shit yourself? So I can emphatically tell you that it does. But I've never shat myself. You have control. You're not voiding all of your bowels and all of your esophagus all over the place. The purging's an energetic purge. It's a spiritual purge. It's releasing from the body what she is chiseling off. It's like being in a mine and she's just going and just chiseling off the things that you are moving through, and then it's got to come out of the body. And one of the maestros that we've both sat with, Don Gino, and he always says, after you purge, look in the bucket. What are you looking at? What is staring back at you? What have you expelled from yourself, and what can you see? And I've looked in my bucket, and I have seen myself as an old man. I have seen myself as a different old man. It's like there's different journeys of like where you're going to be, and I'm literally seeing it look back at me. I've seen dark demonic things. I mean, they're not demons, but they're just dark things just sitting in there that have been residing in my body. And it's just been cleansed. It's really cleansed. I mean, I personally, out of all the sits I've done, I can probably count on one hand how many times I've actually purged, vomited. It doesn't tend to be something that happens to me a lot, but when I do, it's because I've surrendered. It's because I've allowed the medicine to deeply bring me into the spaces within myself that I have or unwilling to have been and gone to. And then that's the purging effect that obviously comes through. I actually purge a lot more, like I've got to get up and use the toilet a lot more. That's kind of more how my body purges. But either way, the spaces that you drop just get ultimately filled with love.
For sure. It is more of an energetic process than a physical one, although physically it can be quite challenging at times. But it is just about your ability to move through that and allow the mother to just work through you.
I remember one ceremony I was doing, actually it was with Don Gino a couple of years ago, and I remember looking over and another participant was over there and he was playing a guitar. And this is the dance that you can play in. And I just remember looking at him and he was playing his song, and there was this black entity that was just draped over him, and it was just playing with him. It was strumming with him, and then it would leave and it would come back, and it was just draped over. And I was just watching. This entity. There was no fear though. There was nothing to be scared of, because the beacon of light and protection, and this is why, the people that we sit with are very, very well versed and very well apprenticed under very strong lineages from the First Nations in South America, where this is obviously produced. And they have the responsibility of protecting that circle, of holding that space and that reverence for everyone. So you're never scared. But somebody actually said something to me quite profound after I shared that. He said that, well, we actually, in the spiritual world, we set up such a beacon of light, of love and healing and energy, that all entities are drawn to it, like moths to a flame, and they've got to come and check it out. But nothing will fuck with you unless you allow it to. But even when you allow it to, that's obviously what needed to happen, because then it's just the fuckery inside of you that needs to come through. And it's a really paradox. And I thought that was a really good explanation of it, you're putting this beacon up and they're coming. And some of the things I've seen, they're undescribable, indescribable, because there's no words that put into them. I mean, I could describe that. I just saw, laughing crazy clown monkeys up in the bleachers and rolling around and different things like that. But I don't have a lot of actual things like that I see. Mine's more very introspective, and mine's very, very within my body, very within myself. And I mean, I'm getting emotional talking about it because it's just been so close to me, and it's created the man that I am today because of these powerful medicines and these powerful sets, and these, just so ever grateful that it found me. Just so ever grateful that I got to discover these plants, not just ayahuasca, but mescaline, grandfather, San Pedro, that's all the same. Psilocybin, mushrooms, taking LSD with reverence and ability for play and fun now. Rape, which is an absolute daily for us, because it just opens the consciousness every single time and opens me up for downloads and for anything that I need to move through and help through. Right down to I've just started a relationship back again with marijuana as well in the last 3 months, 4 months, and it's fucking profound. Changing the way that you use something, it just makes me so clear. I can literally piece my mind together like a Tetris board and just go, well, that's going there, that's going there. And so my life is filled. My life is absolutely filled with plant medicines, with psychedelics, because of the amazingness that come from them and the leveling up that comes from them as well. But it's been a hell of a journey to get to this point of usage of it as well. I've sat crippled in ayahuasca ceremonies, crippled over, feeling God in me, but wringing me out like a sponge. And that's what needed to happen. I have been on the other side of the universe, in the universe, within the womb of the universe, looking back and absolutely knowing that I can just move everything that if I wanted to. I've been crying absolute diamond tears of joy because something's just dropped and it's just opened me up, and the tears that roll down my face are actual fucking diamonds. I've had joygasms where I just get released from joy that's in my body, and I just shake and I laugh and I cry all at the same time, and it's the most overpowering feeling of joy I've ever felt. Or just like my last one, I can be absolutely filled where I lose my hearing, I lose my sight, and the energy inside me is just, it's so powerful. You can feel that it's the universe within me, it's God within me, it's love that's within me, it's everything that's within me, and my human body could not withhold all of it, but it came from within me. How can any of these experiences, or how can any of these medicines be held in the light which they are by most people in society? And this is why sitting here speaking about it with conviction and from the heart, that's all we can do.
That's all we can do, brother. That's all we can do. And it all comes down to us. I mean, the medicines are so powerful, but it's actually about the integration of them that's so important.
Absolutely.
Right? It's about giving yourself the space to take the lessons that are shown to you and bring that reverence through the rest of your life, because it's not like we're just sitting here doing plant medicine. It's all the other work. It's the breath work, it's the shadow work, it's cultivating new relationships, it's allowing yourself to move into play, it's the open and honest and authentic conversations that you have outside of it, it's the edges that you push, it's the challenges you put yourself through. And it's like the medicine is just one extremely powerful tool that shows you everything else is possible, that allows you to drop into a place and a space that isn't of this realm, but is in this realm and outside of this realm, so that you know what pieces you need to move. Because sometimes when we're looking at it just in our natural state of consciousness, there's so much going on. We get so wrapped up in the story. We get so caught up in our work and our relationships. We're chasing all these different things that we don't have the ability to see all the pieces. You know, we can only see what we can see or see what we know. And utilizing, not even using them, just utilizing these plants that have very specific chemicals in them that our body has receptors for, you know, to help us move into an altered state of consciousness where we can see the full map of consciousness and start to see what's actually for us and start to see the aspects or the things that we've done wrong or we've walked over or the people that we've maybe used or manipulated or the situations when we weren't truly authentic or the challenges that we can feel but don't really know where they're from. To be able to tap into that as well, it's like that's the symphony. Right, that's where all the magic happens because you're combining all of it together.
I'm glad you, brother. What a download that was! It was exceptionally well said. The integration is the huge part of it. You get messages, you create your own messages, but it's the action you take on those messages that will get you the change.
100%. And it's feeling into when the time is right. Like literally we were just sitting before this podcast and I got a message about a friend that had done mushrooms and you got another invitation to another ayahuasca ceremony. It was just like, man, the universe is just dropping in that, like, you know, what you guys are about to talk to is the perfect time to talk to it because the universe is talking about it with you, right?
And this is whilst we were doing a rape as well.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so synchronistic. And I absolutely love it. These are the messages that come to us in every moment if you are just there to look. And this is what the medicines help you see. Sure. They help you feel and see these messages. One of our very dear friends and great spiritual guides and teachers, he said something very profound. Well, he says lots of profound things, but one of the things that really stuck with me is he goes, "You will get pieces of a puzzle in each ceremony that you don't even have the puzzle yet for."
Yeah, for sure.
And I just thought, fucking yes, that is a piece of wisdom. And he goes, "I've been drinking for 15 years and I still have some pieces of the puzzle from my first sit that I still don't have the puzzle for."
Yeah, for sure.
And then I started reflecting on all the pieces of the puzzle that I have. And I thought, yeah, there are some puzzles that I don't have these pieces to go into yet.
For sure. It's like having half of a riddle.
Exactly right. and then you want to talk about the integration process. That's where it's at. It's the action that you take. It's the lessons that you've learned. It's the depth that it's taken you to within yourself for you to become more radical honest with yourself, with the things that you've gone through, with how you're showing up, with your voice, with your words, with your actions, with your personality. All these things can mold and shift. But you've got to take the action from the experience that you've had within one of these ceremonies.
Definitely. And if you don't, then the next time you sit, the same story will come up. You know, the same lesson, the same journey. And it was like, that's what we were both talking about. I was like, you know what? I don't feel like I've fully integrated all the things that have come up. Yes, there's been some actions that I've just gone gung-ho into and I've allowed myself to step into and change and embrace, but there's still just a few little subtle nuances that I'm like, okay, no, I haven't actually allowed myself to integrate that. And knowing that going into another ceremony, I know that that's just what's going to come up. So it's like, I already know what the lesson is from the mother because she's always there when you tap in, you know. If you just sit there and, you know, she's there. She's divinely guiding. And then so it's just having that respect for it, you know. Otherwise you're just fucking chasing the dragon. Chasing the dragon, hoping something will happen, searching for change instead of actually making change in the real world.
Yep. I absolutely agree with that one. So my last ceremony that I had, so go to that message I just got, being invited to another ceremony. I won't be taking up on it because I did feel into it. And you're right, I'm still integrating from my last one. My last one was super profound. I know I touched on it on earlier podcasts when I was going through my big dark night of the soul thing there. And that was the calling. So on the third, so actually I don't think I've spoken about the calling actually. So whilst I was in the midst of all that, so this is the exceptional thing about recording podcasts throughout your life, is that there are actually like markers of what you've gone through. There's timestamps, so I could go back and listen to it and be like, yep, that's right. So I'd been in it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 5, really just going through it all, the depth of it all, and yeah, all of a sudden I was at work. It was a Thursday, and all of a sudden, just got the call, dropped in. It led me to tears. I cried straight away. So I had to go out into the other room, and I made a phone call, and I said, brother, I've just got the call so bad, and I was in tears and I was struggling to talk. I said, look, I'm in the depths of a death portal right now. I've just got the call to sit with the mother. I need some guidance. And he said, well, there's this Saturday night, and where I was to where that was, that's an 8-hour drive or 9-hour drive, and I had lots going on, and this is Thursday, and I just said, I'm there. And so Thursday, finished out Thursday, Friday came along, and then I had to go to another city on the Friday night because I had something to do on the Saturday morning, and then went through the Saturday morning, and then I left about 1 on the afternoon. And again, it was I was just divinely guided. I was driving about 160 k's average the whole way through. Don't advise that. However, that was just where I was to make it for the 7:30 sit, and I got there at 7:20, and that sit was the most stripping away of my own personal self and identity that I've ever had. It was, I was on my knees making vows to God, to myself. I had to let go of deep grief. I had to allow it to purge. I was tackling these deep traumas in my body, and it was a full death. It was a full death.
It's like piecing together the pieces of the puzzles that you collected before,
it was.
and the aspects of yourself, and giving you an opportunity to wipe the slate and start again.
It was.
Here's a new puzzle piece, Bodhi.
Oh yeah, exactly. And so one of the main, well, not one of the main, but a deep message that came through was I was stripped. I mean, I had self-stripped so much by that point, and then I got into the ayahuasca ceremony, and she just stripped me even more. And what was interesting was about 2 weeks before, we were out having lunch, and I said to you, I'm even thinking about my name. Like, what is my name, and what am I doing here, and potentially, like, what's in a name? And that was kind of all it was. But then she brought it up in me in that ceremony, and I wrestled for about an hour in writhing pain of, if you want to be the architect of your life, you can change your name. Because if you can change your name, you can do anything, because that's the first true deep identity that's been given to you. And if you can change that, she goes, not a lot of people will understand, so it will build your strength. In the context of our world, there's huge processes to go through, so it's going to build your resilience. Ultimately, it's going to build your own kingship, because you are taking ownership of your own life. You are dropping the attachment to something that's been so dear to every single person, is your own name. And so I wrestled, and I finally surrendered to it, and I said, okay, mother, fine, I surrendered to it, and I want to. And then I wrestled for about another half an hour of what name should I get. And I was going through different people I was going to talk to. I was having conversations with you. I was having conversations with Shanna. I was having conversations with my sister. And then she just goes, the name will be chosen for you. I said, oh, who's going to choose it? And she goes, you know who. And so she goes, write him a letter. And so I was like, okay. And so I just because I always take pen and pad into the ceremonies. And so I wrote him a letter. Just wrote him a beautiful letter. I got up, stumbled over, dropped it into him. And about 15 minutes later, he comes over, and he just takes off all my jewelry, all my necklaces, all my bracelets, everything. He goes, just be naked. be naked. And he said, brother, I would be honored to give you a name. We'll do a naming ceremony in the morning. He had a name for it. I think it's called Sanskara or Sanskrit. Now,
Sanskara?
Something like that. Now, if you're listening, I'm not trying to say it's the name. It starts with this, and it's actually got a name. Anyway, so he said, you will do that in the morning as a naming ceremony.
Beautiful.
And I just cried. I cried for about 20 minutes after that, and I was going through all my process. And so the next morning, went back into the ceremony room, had some rapes. I cried some more, and then I got handed my new name, which is Bodhi Archella. Bodhi Archella. And so ever since then, so that would have been December. So ever since then, I've just been allowing to let that name permeate, allowing it to just integrate a little bit. What depth do I want to take this name? Do I want to take it and just maybe, be another name I give to somebody if I'm out and, I want to be someone different? Or do I just change it on social media? Or do I actually go the full whole hog and actually legally change my name? And so I'm not rushing it. I'm just letting it sit, but I'm moving more towards the call of full name change, which is what the mother told me to do, was the message as well, and I can feel that. And so if I went back into another ceremony now, it would just be an ass kicking of, hey,
sure.
You already know the message, you already know the choice. I know it's your choice. However, where are you taking this? And so, I'm just letting it drop, and I'm not chasing anything else. So
the next time you sit, you'll be Bodhi.
Maybe that's it, right? Who knows? I mean, we went to Kiwiburn a couple of months ago or a month ago, and obviously you can have your paddock name, which is a name that's been given to you. And so I tried it out there for the 5 days, and no one knew my other name, and it was really cool. And it's been a really interesting journey. And this is the power of deep medicine, deep work. I'm not saying you're going to go do one eye sit and you're going to strip everything. You're going to be a completely different person. It doesn't work that way. I asked for this. I called this in. This is in no way what happens every single time. I've been on a deep journey, not just with this, but a whole lot of other modalities, for me to get to this point where I'm totally stripped, where I'm happy to be disengaging from the deeper identities that have been given to us over our life, and I'm happy for that. And so it's a beautiful thing to sit here and speak about it in such a public forum as well, because I don't think I really have. And maybe this is the context that needed to happen for me to rise that up again as well. So it's really interesting. So that's the power of the medicine. It can be as deep and as profound as you want to follow it with.
Definitely. And it's beautiful, man. And it's like ayahuasca, we've obviously touched on quite a lot, but there's so many different other plant medicines that are in our life that we've utilized and used in reverence, right? Like San Pedro.
Oh, yeah.
Wachuma. It's a beautiful cactus that we do produce ourselves and allow ourselves to go through that process of breaking it down, stripping it away, boiling it down, singing ikaros, having rapes, and really engulfing, or what's the word I'm looking for? Infusing a piece of ourselves into the process of the making of the medicine, and it's a beautiful process because it gives you such a deeper respect when you do sit with it, because the process, the time, the energy, the effort that's gone into it. So it's like the ceremony begins when you start the manufacturing process, not even manufacturing, when you start the creation process. That's when the ceremony begins.
It does. And I love being in the house when we're brewing it, because the energy is just different.
Ooh, the smell wafts through.
It wafts. I mean, I love it now, but a lot of people don't. But just the energy of the mescaline just floating through the house, it's a really floaty, grounding, beautiful essence that it has. And so, cactus, wachuma, San Pedro, all the same thing has been a big being a big part of our life. And some of the most major decisions that we've made, friendship-wise, brotherhood-wise, business-wise, where to live-wise, have been with the help of wachuma, of the cactus. And for me, it's it's such a beautiful medicine that aligns my mind and my body. And it truly turns me superhuman. I really feel superhuman when I'm on it.
It's such a deep level of presence and awareness, like nothing else before.
I mean, we go through phases of microdosing is probably not the right term, but that's how everyone would understand it. Of taking 20 mils in the morning, and the stuff that I get done in the day, it's absolutely incredible.
For sure.
And it's just bringing those plants into our lives. And as I say, some of the biggest decisions that we've made that got us right here have been with the connection with cactus.
Yeah, for sure. The beautiful connection that is cactus. And that, it is beautiful. We do move through those cycles of microdosing and not, and then having big sits and ceremonies with it. And it is... it is the process, man. It's all about the process. That ability to, well, as you're brewing it, it's like you have to be present when you're brewing it, because you're literally stripping the wax off every single piece. And if you're not there, if you're not present doing it, it just gets all messy. It gets all over the place.
You become a cactus.
You become the cactus. You are. The cactus is you, and you are the cactus.
Oh, it's a beautiful medicine. And sitting in a ceremony context with it, one of our other brothers, Tim, I mean, we sat with him when he was moving through some stuff, and we just, us three in brotherhood, held him in that. We had a ceremony dosage each, and the stripping of the armor that happens with going into a ceremonial amount of cactus. It's you can see it happening in front of your eyes.
Sure.
And you can just see when the armor's stripping off that it's just left bare barren as whatever is there, and then that has the ability to move out of you through tears or crying or conversation. But what it has done is it's elevated your mind to be the observer of it as well. You aren't becoming the emotion, you're just allowing it to feel.
For sure.
Or allowing yourself to feel it as it's moving through you.
Yeah.
And if you do that enough, that you teach yourself how to do that, so you can self-regulate, you can self-feel. I mean, none of us are taught how to feel. I mean, we've spoken about this multiple times on this podcast. There's no feeling class at school. There's no... most parents are just running from their own, are just running on their own parenting programs that their parents gave them, and not saying there's anything bad about that. That's the journey of our own childhood into adulthood, and we chose it all. But sitting there and being the observer of your emotions fully, while still being able to feel them, it's super profound.
It is, and I love the explanation of it, because it is perfect. Like you're sitting with an emotion without being consumed by the emotion, and it just gives you an ability to just unpack and unwind all of these different stories and things that you've had going on, and just really looking at everything from a place of objectivity. You have the ability to see the script, to understand where the script comes from, and then choose whether or not you want to rewrite that script.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite a tongue twister, rewrite.
Rewrite. The cactus is called the grandfather for the reason. It's slow. Long. He loves a cigar.
Oh.
But he's there to tell you a yarn.
For sure.
Gather around, children, sit down. I'm going to tell you a story, and it's a grandpa story. That's the cactus for you. For sure. But there's a depth of masculinity in it. There's a depth of grounding in it. There's a depth of safety in it.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's such. I mean, that's why ayahuasca is called the mother or the grandmother, and you've got the grandfather, which is the cactus. You through the ayahuasca, you get the warm hugs from grandma, but she's going to tell you. She's going to tell you off
if you need it.
Yeah. And if you're even bad, she'll use her ring hand. But then the grandfather, he's the one who just moves slow. He's always got a good story, but he's very solid, and he's going to give you $10, so you can go out and get something that you want.
For sure.
But however, he still will make you earn it, because that's obviously the old lineage that he comes from. And so, again, just another amazing medicine that constantly sits in our fridge. Not saying that ayahuasca sits in our fridge, but cactus certainly does. I mean, we have it growing everywhere. It's all legal when it's growing as well.
For sure.
And it's
a psychedelic that hides in plain sight.
Yeah, I mean, it's a powerful story. If you haven't watched it, jump on to Netflix and watch Michael Pollard's documentary. What's it called?
How to Change Your Mind.
How to Change Your Mind. Really amazing. He goes into MDMA. He goes into cactus. He goes into psilocybin and LSD. Yeah, it's a great book. I've got the book as well.
Yeah, great book, because he goes into all the different plant medicines, right?
Yeah,
caffeine, nicotine. Yeah. All of them.
Yeah. I mean, those are all plant medicines too.
Yeah, for sure. Utilize them and use them with reverence, and they're going to drop in. I mean, that's what hape is. It is a nicotine, right?
Well, it is. I mean,
the beautiful dopamagenic.
Oh, it's getting late when Ryan can't make his words.
It's like 9:30. It's time to go to bed. Some of that cactus.
Oh yeah. I mean, let's touch on rape while we're here, because when we speak about it all the time, it's on our social medias all the time. So rape itself is a South American snuff. It's non-hallucinogenic. It's non-psychedelic, whatever that means, I guess, because it's still
takes you into an altered state.
It gives you an altered state. It drops you in. So you blow it into your nose and each nostril, and it just drops you into the deepest meditative state you've ever been in. It helps if there's anything that's sitting on the above surface, emotionally wise, it'll help you move through it. Every now and then it may cause you to purge, but again, it's just another energetic purge, but it's not very often. Usually if it's your first few times, potentially, it is. There's hundreds of different rapes out there, and they're all made very, what would you say, tribally, with their own recipes.
Yeah, for sure. And they're all made in ceremony over in South America, right? So that they have the energy of the Icaros tied into them, as well as the energy of the different plants that are used with them. So every hape has their own infusion of different plants, and so they all have their own energy to them. The ones that we predominantly use is sunu, which is just so grounding, just brings you into your body. Mint, which is just lights you up and brings you out and does all the things. It takes you on an absolute journey. And then another beautiful one that we have been trying is that beautiful dreams,
beautiful thoughts.
That's it, right? And it just takes you into your brain without being in your mind. It's such an interesting experience.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. Takes you into your brain without being in your mind. Yeah, that's absolutely nailed it.
And it's just, it's such an interesting experience. And they're beautiful medicines, man, because they just tap you in a little deeper.
Tap you in, and every single time, it just raises your consciousness level.
Yeah, for sure.
It just does. The downloads, again, you want to speak about major decisions and major pathways that we've created in our life, and we've sat with rape and just been an open vessel to the download of what the divine is talking to us about, or what our own divinity within ourselves is, just making that voice a little louder so we can have the time to stop and listen to it. Sometimes it fucking time travels. Sometimes nothing happens and you just sit there for a little bit.
For sure. Sometimes there's tears. Sometimes there's laughter. Sometimes there's a little pain in the purge. Sometimes it's just presence and nothing.
And so I guess what we're coming into the conclusion of all of this is that if this is the first time you've heard somebody talking about these things in this way, and you feel like you are wanting or are judging us in the way of these people are just using drugs and they are, moving into altered states because the only recollection you can create is being drunk, or the connection is being drunk. I'm here to tell you that it's not. This is medicine. These plants are born onto this earth far before we got here, and they'll be here far after we are gone.
Because if we were just merely chasing an altered state of consciousness, we'd still drink.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I will drink every now and then, like not to get drunk, but I'll have a glass of wine, and it was just like the other. I still get pushed further away from it because I just don't like the way it makes me feel, the way in which it like shuts me down and disconnects me from everything that's going on. I literally had one sip of a little glass of champagne the other night, and I was like, I'm just going to tip this out. It's like it's not the energy that I want to have in me, and it's very same with the plant medicines, the rapes and everything like that. If energetically it doesn't align, then I just won't do it.
Well, we met a beautiful new friend over last weekend, and one of the cool things, she goes, you just know when to put your tools down. And I thought, yeah, absolutely. It's knowing when to put tools down. I mean, every now and then we'll put the rape down for a while, and then it'll come back. And same with the cactus, same with mushrooms, same with ayahuasca. It's
not like we're going every weekend to get high, you know? It's like when the opportunity's there, or when we create a situation and a ceremony around it, that's when we use it, you know?
Or you're going through something and you know the tools that will be able to help you through that, through a deeper space, so you can come out the other side changed.
100%. And that's the journey. That's the actual journey. It's reconditioning the mind, and that's why we started talking about that first. It's like it's reconditioning the mind to the experiences you've had in the past and the association that civilization has created around the use of these, like, air quote, drugs, right? Because when you are doing it from a place of reverence, when you are utilizing it to heal yourself and to support the healing of others, then, man, it's a deep medicine, right? And the mind is created specifically to be able to utilize these chemicals.
And we didn't even touch on today about the religious context of how Western society actually got created through the evolutionary use of psilocybin. So that may be another podcast.
All the ancient chalices, it's hidden everywhere.
Yeah, it's hidden everywhere.
Of it, DMT, it's everywhere.
All of the Greek philosophers going into their cave for a month. I mean,
for sure.
There's so much evidential history coming out now that you just want to go search for it and make up your own mind, and it's there. Even Christianity was based off taking psychedelic medicines.
Well, you can even go back to evolution, right? They reckon one of the huge jumps was when monkeys started eating mushrooms.
Yeah. The Neanderthal man was out finding his psilocybin and eating them and growing his own consciousness.
Yeah.
It's all divine, baby. It's all divine.
It's all divine. We're here for a reason.
Yep.
We're doing this for a reason.
Oh yeah. So I think on that note, we will sign off. It's been a beautiful, interesting conversation.
I love it.
I mean, we could talk about this for hours.
Definitely.
We really could. And I mean, we just scratched the surface today.
Yeah, for sure. We didn't even touch too much on the joy that is mushrooms, but we can talk about her again.
Oh yeah, we can. Time. Yeah. But if you've been following along, thank you very much. We love you, and we love that. Well, you're listening to us because, we do this not to be listened to. It's kind of a weird thing, but then people are listening, and we're getting such amazing feedback, and we love hearing from you. So please share this podcast, share it out there. You know, the words and the communication and the conversations we're having we want them to be triggering people if they. Not in a bad context, but just in a way that they can hear something in a different way, or see life in a different way, or hear about a subject that they never thought that they would ever hear about, and it might change something. But again, it's just about sharing the love, growing the love.
That's it.
And sharing our journey.
100%. So thank you all for being here, and we will see you on next week's podcast.
See you next week.
Love ya.